Hi guys, and welcome to our Leslie West trivia workshop with the man himself, Jared James Nichols. Hi Jared, and thank you so much for taking your time today.
Hey brother, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here to tribute Leslie West.
The honor is all ours, really. Thanks a lot, much appreciated. At first, right away, you can, our readers and listeners and watchers can have a look at the workshop in fully in our Guitar 321 with notes, tabs, and audio files, which you played for us. So you got the notes and the files from the man himself, Jared James Nichols. So, Jared, first right away, how do you do in these crazy times?
Well, I will tell you this. I miss touring. I miss coming to Germany. I was supposed to come to Germany in March. I was already in Europe, and due to the pandemic, I had to fly home, and the tour was canceled. But I'm good. I'm taking this time, and I'm writing a new record. I've been practicing a lot, and which for me, I was never able to practice on the road a lot.
Okay.
So it's good because now I have time to work on the guitar. But really, I just can't wait to get back on the road and start touring again because I feel like I miss it so much that I need it.
It's part of your life, of your essence.
Yes, and I think that a lot of music lovers, we need it to have some sort of entertainment and release in our lives, or we're getting too bored.
Yeah, that's it. But it's interesting that you're saying you're practicing quite a lot, and you've got the possibility to dive into the music because there are also a lot of musicians who everybody I think is coping in a different way with not being able to play live or in these times. I met Mike Dawes, the acoustic player. He told us he had like a blockade. He wasn't able to do music because he was every time thinking he's not able to perform it. Yeah, it was really heartbroken. And he got back again after the death of Eddie Van Halen, which it sparked his creative fire again. So you can. It's nice to hear that you still got the fire to practice and to look forward into the future.
I always told my friends and bandmates that if I had one more year to practice, I felt that it would really help me become more of a well-rounded musician, not only on the guitar, but, you know, writing songs and working on arrangements and singing. And I've had the year, so I'm so grateful for that. And obviously staying safe and healthy and everything. And now I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get back out and start playing.
Okay, so we can tell the pandemic to go, and it's about time. Roll over. Let us play again.
That's right.
So how you said you're also like arranging and singing, but how? Just asking, how do you practice guitar? Is it like you're playing to songs, or do you practicing scales? How does Jared James Nichols practice his guitar skills?
Well, I used to have a real practice regimen. For years, I would play guitar for 5, 8, 10 hours a day. And I would do everything from scales. I would play major, minor, mixo, Dorian. I'd run them all the way up and down the neck. And then I would do different finger exercises. I'd work on my chords. I'd work on kind of like ear training to know when to land on certain notes. And of course, I would work on riffs and licks, copying from all of my heroes. But now my practicing is a lot different. I'm more just playing and improvising and trying to come up with ideas. I think the hardest part about being a guitar player is trying to come up with your own sound. So that's what I've been trying to work on, is digging more into the sounds and the techniques and things that I love and trying to make those come out. So when people hear me play guitar, no matter what I'm playing, they go, "Oh, the tone, that's Jared." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing that there are some musicians that when they hit one note, even if it's on a piano, the way they put the note down, you can almost recognize it's them, as you said. And I think it's you can correct me, but I think it's a never-ending quest, isn't it?
It's never ending. I think, honestly, the more I learn, the harder it is, because it's so never ending that no matter how much time I put in, there's always something more to learn or to see. Just the other day I was practicing and I was playing a lick, and instead of bending where I usually bend, I went up a whole step and did a different bend. And I'd never done that before. And I said, oh man, now I can add this. So every day I'm finding new cool techniques or riffs or licks. And that's the best part about guitars. It's so much fun. And if I didn't have the guitar during the pandemic, I would have went crazy.
Yeah, who wouldn't? So, but so it was was the bending a happy little accident, or was it planned? It's all about the accidents, isn't it?
Yeah. So if I can play, let's see if it'll work. So I was playing, right, and I was in the key of A. So here's my A.
Oh, loves the sound.
Can you hear that? It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
So I was playing in the key of A, and I was just playing a minor third on the G string on the 5th fret, and I was bending that up a half, so it would be like... Getting that sound, right?
Yeah, feel it.
So I was thinking to myself, okay, well, what if I want to go to the 4 chord? And I did this bend where I went...
Weird.
And that bends into the 3rd of a D. So then I have this. There's the A and then the D. And I'd never done it like that before. So I'm always finding new ways of playing things. I could do it right here. So I love to explore, and I think with rock and blues, it's very important to never settle, never get used to the same riffs that you always play, because everyone that plays, especially blues influenced rock and roll, there's a certain set of licks that we all have. But what I think is cool is making those licks your own and finding different ways of playing them, or kind of like just finding different parts of the neck to play them on. They just sound a little different, and you put your own stamp on them.
You have to learn the rules to break them.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly.
But so it's every day learning something new. But for example, also the big legends like Gary Moore, for example, I was thinking about it because of his sound. You know, he had Greenie and stuff, and he had his Marshall amps, but he was still, when people say, oh, this is the sound, he was still looking forward to it, and he changed it still over and over. He never stopped. Or Led Zeppelin, when they had their second album, they didn't stop. They advanced and continued and played new songs and had new styles and riffs and stuff like that.
What's cool with all of our heroes too like that is they never stopped. So when we think, oh man, that's the best, they're thinking in their heads, I have more. There's more to come. I'll keep developing and growing. And for me, that's so important, because you don't want to get stale. You don't want to get slouchy and lazy. You always want to be pushing for more. And I think that's so cool.
That's the most important thing. And you already said it, talking about legends and guitar heroes. That's why we're here. That's why we're talking today. Because in December of 2020, Leslie West, the mastermind of hard rock band Mountain, died at the age of 75. And I looked at your Instagram account, and you wrote, my biggest guitar hero, Leslie West, thank you for inspiring me to play the electric guitar with power and soul. So, yeah, it meant so much because you named him as your biggest guitar hero, which is so much for you as a professional and famous guitar player, that you said this is your biggest hero, and he influenced you to start playing the guitar.
He did, yes. I really mean that. When I heard Leslie West, I was hearing something special. You know, there's something about Leslie's playing and the way that he was able to bend a note or manipulate his guitar in the tones that really spoke to me. Even when I was young and I heard Mississippi Queen and I heard that riff, I heard the, you know.
You instantly get the stiff upper lip.
Yeah. And I love all of the guys from Jeff Beck and Peter Green and Paul Kossoff and Stevie Ray Vaughan. But when I hear Leslie, I heard something really special. And the thing about him is he directly influenced me to really start my trio and my power trio. Although Mountain was a 4-piece band, when I listened to them, you know, it was Leslie's guitar and the grooves and the riffs and the way that he phrased. I fell in love.
Do you remember when did you hear it the first time? Was it Mississippi Queen?
Yeah, it was on the radio. It was Mississippi Queen. I bet I was 6 years old.
Oh,
I think
wow.
the first time I remember.
Oh, wow. Back in the days.
Yeah, back in the days.
Yeah.
I did not start playing the guitar until I was 15. So I knew of Leslie and I knew that sound before I'd ever thought I would ever play guitar.
Yeah.
I remember when I started to play the guitar, though, when I was learning Leslie riffs, things like things off Mountain Climbing, like Silver Paper or any of those kind of riffs, it just felt so fun to me. It was so much fun to play. And I love just the way that he played it. It influences me today. I still get influenced by Leslie.
So did somebody show him to you, or is it like you said on the radio? Because mostly when you're in the age of 15 or 16, we are also very influenced by friends. Everybody is showing the other one or some vinyls or some CDs. How was it with you?
Well, my dad showed me Mississippi Queen and also the song Nantucket Sleigh Ride. And I remember hearing his guitar on Nantucket Sleigh Ride when I was a kid. And he would do this, I call it like a whale call, where the volume would be down and he would bend a note up and then bring it up like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Without any delay, anything, just from the fingers.
Yeah, and I heard that and I was like, what is that sound?
Yeah.
So my dad was the first one to really show me who that was. But then another thing is we all love Jimi Hendrix. We love Eric Clapton. We love those guys. But Leslie was right there in the beginning of kind of the start of hard rock. Yeah. He was blending blues and rock and roll, and he was going for it way more aggressive. He had a much more punch to it than most of those guys. And I love it.
Of course, I listened in the last days quite a lot to Mountain, and I noticed like this huge advancement from his first record, which was Leslie West Mountain, and afterwards when he formed the trio Mountain Climbing, it's like this huge gap where he started getting so much more aggressive and the riffs and stuff where you really can feel the energy. It was even before kind of Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin started to get really into it. There was when he already played on Woodstock.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. And Leslie was taking things. He had a lot of ideas on the first record, his solo record, right? But when Climbing came out, all of a sudden it was like a whole new animal. Yeah. And the riffs he was playing and the licks that he would play, they technically weren't hard to play, but it was the way he was attacking them, and it was his tone. It was the Les Paul Jr. through the Sun Coliseum amps. Yeah. And it just sounded like I always say it sounded like a grizzly bear. Because like when you hear it coming, you know it's going to be crazy. Yeah. And you know he's going to be just on fire. And I still listen to so many Mountain like bootlegs. There's an amazing bootleg. If anyone wants to check it out, it's Mountain live at the Fillmore, New Year's Eve, 1970. Oh, and it's literally right after Climbing and right when Nantucket Sleigh Ride came out, and it's some of the most ferocious, beautiful playing I've ever heard. Because Leslie was the kind of player too that he could be as aggressive, but he could also be delicate with the way that he played. For instance, like Theme for an Imaginary Western. Yeah. He was doing lines, right, where all of a sudden it would be like so you would get this one side of Leslie, which was going, and then you get this other side where it was, And it was just, he had this beautiful sense of phrasing. I loved it.
That's what I also noticed. For example, the ending song of Climbing, Boys in the Band, which is like this huge orchestra, and he's not. Nowadays, sometimes I've got the feeling people are afraid. It's a little bit exaggerated, but people are afraid to show their feelings, to show beautiful melodies, and to show beautiful lines. And as you said, he had this mixture that he had this power riffs where people started headbanging long before there wasn't even any headbanging, and then on the next track, it's all Silver Paper. It's this also. I'm starting to search for the words, but this fragility, but in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm so with you. Leslie was the first guy that I learned how to do like a stacked power chord. So, like, I heard stories that, Black Sabbath opened for Mountain on their first tours. And I was told that Ozzy Osbourne heard Leslie's guitar tone and went to Tony Iommi and said, he needs a guitar. So, but Leslie would do those chords like where most guys would play a power chord. Let's say we're in the key of E, and they would do a power chord on just their 7th fret, on their A string, and their 9th fret on their G, right? Just
the classic on the D. One.
Right? Cool. Well, Leslie would take his hand and he would bar across the 7th fret on the low E and the A, and then he'd take his middle across the D string and the G string on the 9th fret, and it would sound like... So instead of having it just stand there going, Leslie would go. Or for instance, like Don't Look Around from Nantucket Sleigh Ride, the opening track, he would go.
It gets so much more depth.
So much depth and so much tone. That's what I loved about him too. Like, and for me, starting my own band, I took so many ideas from him, even how to play chords, like how to make the guitar sound big in a 3-piece, because he did it so well.
Yeah, that's also the art. I also try to play in a 3-piece band, and it's extremely heavy because everybody has. As you said, you have to fill the gaps also, and you have to use these tricks. One power chord doesn't work out that well.
Yeah, and the way that he would play lead too, that was really beautiful, especially at that time, was he had such a sense of rhythm. So everything would be rolling along, no matter if he was playing a searing lead line or he was down on the bottom. There was a sense of rhythm that he knew where he needed to play. And it's so important as a guitar player because sometimes we get caught up and we want to play over everything.
Yeah.
Let's just play. He never overplayed. He always had a sense of melody and rhythm and the tasty. It was always tasty.
Have you ever seen him playing live?
Yeah, I've actually played with him.
Oh, nice.
So
what was it like?
It was incredible. I had the opportunity to play in New York City at B.B. King's, opening up and jamming with Leslie West in 2018. It was 2018.
Oh, it's not that too far away. Okay.
And I remember I got the gig, and we flew to New York. I flew to New York, and I got there the day of the gig, and I got to New York City at like 9 a.m. So I spent all day walking around to all the guitar shops, and I went for sound check. And I was so nervous. I was so nervous because to me, this was like meeting Jimi Hendrix or meeting Clapton. I was so nervous, and I was really scared that maybe he would not like me.
Yeah, you never know.
And they say never meet your heroes, right?
Yeah.
So I end up getting there, and I remember he had a tech, and he did sound check for him. So Leslie was in the back, and they said, all right, go up on stage, go do your sound check.
Yeah.
And I went up there, and I was like, what am I going to play, And I remember I just started riffing, And then all of a sudden, behind me, I hear, whoa, and I was like this. And there was Leslie. And he goes, man, you kick ass. And I was just like.
Yeah.
And then we hung out, and he told me.
So he knighted you.
Yes. And then he told me a ton of stories.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's what it's all about.
And then he said, man, you got some really good licks. And I said, thank you. I took them all from you.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, I'm going to have to learn them all back.
Wow, nice. That's a really cool story. Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
So as I said, sometimes you're also named as the torchbearer of Leslie West, because there, as you said, there's so much of his playing in your playing, which is always quoting and creating. The connection is inevitable.
Yes. I really, I love that. And the thing that I always want to do is carry Leslie's spirit, especially in the forefront of my playing.
Yeah.
Have my own voice, but always let everyone know the roots where it came from.
Of course, that's like always the day that Zeppelin. They are also a Little Richard and stuff like that. They also had their all their influences, and they were proud and showed them. And this is like the way it's going, I think. And for example, for people who are not very familiar with the work of Leslie West and Mountain, which can happen, but that's why we are here for. Which album would you consider to start with to get into the style?
I would consider, to anyone that really wants to check Leslie's playing out and Mountain, to pick up their first copy, Mountain Climbing.
Yeah.
That would give a great indication of the tone, the style, the feel, the way that Leslie plays, the way he sings. And what I would do after that is I'd go Nantucket Sleigh Ride. Then I would go Flowers of Evil. And then I would go for the live album, The Road Goes Ever On.
For one year is it? Because he's quite a lot of... Oh, it's from the earlier days, isn't it?
Yes, that would have been here. Let me look. This would have been 1973, right here. You can see that.
The live one.
Yeah, the live one.
Yeah.
I have it hanging on my wall.
Nice, because I also got I bought back in the days also a live album, which is called
Twin Peaks.
Yeah, which is also really nice, and there's a version of Nantucket Sleigh Ride which takes 31 minutes, where he's playing everything out of the guitar, and is also so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
He had such a cool way of doing that. And I think what was so cool about that is Leslie was the kind of player that I aspire to be, someone that made mistakes and took chances and remembered what the music was about. It's not about perfection. It was about the passion and the soul.
Yeah, I think it's important that we always got reminded by something like that, which is also interesting because Leslie Blade was famous for his Les Paul Jr., it's Gibson Les Paul Jr., where he only played the P90. And for example, you and your signature guitar, you're also famous for playing a Les Paul, not a Junior, and playing a P90 pickup. So can you tell us a little bit about your signature guitar and the way it is connected to Leslie?
Absolutely. So what I'm holding in my hands right now is my brand new signature guitar. This is Gold Glory, right? It's my second signature guitar with Epiphone. And the first one was called Old Glory.
So you added the G.
Yeah. And that guitar was based on my Gibson guitar that I'd been touring with and playing for years. So we did the run of Old Glories, and it went so well that now we have Gold Glory, right? It's all gold too, which is super cool. It's got a really cool look to it. And this guitar is absolutely 100% leaning on Leslie. When I saw Leslie play a Les Paul Jr. and playing a single pickup with a volume knob and a tone knob and just a rat tail bridge, it sounded so special and it sounded so monstrous to me. And I'm a pretty big guy. I'm pretty tall.
Yeah.
And I love Les Paul Juniors. I love the way they sound. But I said to myself, what would be awesome is if I had a full body Les Paul with a single pickup and the wrap tail piece. And what I ended up doing was taking a Les Paul Custom that I owned and I ripped the neck pickup out. And I took out the volume and the tone and I took off the toggle switch.
So much more basic.
So basic. And what's so cool about it is when you play such a simple guitar like a Les Paul Jr. or like Gold Glory, it's really up to you to make all of the sounds. You have to understand where to pick on the string, your volume, your tone, everything that you do and play is so important that you cannot rely on the other pickup or, going in the middle. You have to make all of the sounds out of one.
And you can squeeze it out of it.
And it's when I heard Leslie squeeze it out of a P90, I knew that that's what I wanted to do because I'd never seen anyone do that before or really since. He was the P90 guy that for me, I said, that's the pickup for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think as you said, always the position of the hand, because most people are always playing in the same position, but there's a huge difference whether you play it right over the fretboard or way more behind, and you're also playing with fingers.
Absolutely. So I'll try and play something really quick. But if I have my volume and my tone all the way up, huge, aggressive, big, and I'm playing in my house, so it's very easy. But then if I want to take my volume and go to 5 instead of 10, and I play. What if I want to take my tone knob and go to 0 and volume at 10?
There we got the woman tone.
Yep. And then what if I want to maybe put them both at 5? I get kind of like a neck pickup. Or I want to do a wah-wah, I can roll the tone back and forth. So it's so important to understand that it's more in your hands, in your mind, and in your heart, and you put it all together, and you can make it happen no matter if you have 1 pickup or 3 pickups.
Amen to that. So what's the role of the P90? What does a P90 deliver than a humbucker or a straight single coil? Which a P90 is? Yeah.
For me, a P90 really, it's a more open sound. Mm-hmm. Most players don't like them because they buzz. There's a buzz, right? At least in America with the 60 cycle hum, there's a little bit of a buzz. And that can kind of be hard, especially when you're trying to play clean. It's almost like you have to hide the buzz. Mm-hmm.
Or embrace it.
Or, and for me, I don't care. Yeah. I love the buzz. But the tone that I get out of a P90, it's something special. It's right in between a true single coil, like on a Stratocaster, and a really nice PAF humbucker. I've been lucky enough to play a lot of old Gibsons, a lot of old Fenders and stuff. And the thing that I notice about P90s, whether it's an old one or a new one, they all generally have the same attack and the same feel. And what that is it's pretty aggressive, but it's funny because you wouldn't think about it, but you can get these weird chicken picking sounds out of it. You're like, it's very articulate and punchy. You can get the big chords like on a humbucker. Yeah. Or if you want to back down all the way, you can get very beautiful single. For me, the P90 is the perfect in-between of your favorite Strat and a great humbucker, but it has its own voice, and it's open, and it allows the player to really shine through with whichever way that they play.
So, it's the part of the player who has to get the sound out of it.
Mm-hmm. And P90, you get a guy like Johnny Thunders or Punk, and the way that they sound with it, right? Yep. On a Les Paul Jr. Then you get guys like Leslie West, or you get guys like Freddie King or John Lee Hooker, like any of those old blues guys, and everyone sounds different, on a P90. They all have a very interesting tone, and not like a tone because of pedals or amps, but just a tone out of that pickup, and it's really fascinating.
It's like everybody tells his own story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're playing the Epiphone with your signature amp, which is the Blackstar, the JJN 20R. Are we listening to it right now?
You sure are. Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay, nice. Yeah?
Oh no, I love it. I love it for sitting here at home. It's the perfect size.
Yeah, that's when we also met in Berlin, where we interviewed you, and you showed us your amplifier, which was really interesting. You can also look it up at YouTube. The link will be in the description. And what I really find is so much interesting that you've got this white sound, and with almost like 20 watts, which is so much enough. It doesn't have to be the 100 watt super full stack. It all comes from the amp.
Yeah, there's a beautiful thing where you have enough headroom. The amp has enough watts that you can get the low end and like the fullness of the sound, but it's not so loud and powerful that you really need to be careful with it. It's really fun. It's almost like being in a small car and you hit the gas pedal and boom, here we go. If you were in a big monster truck, you'd have to be really nervous, right? And it's like playing a gig with this amp, I can just turn it up and I can get the feedback, I can get the sustain, the low end, but it's not at a volume that like is gonna blow up your ears.
Yeah.
I found with this amp that I was really able to dial in my tone just by really working with the volume and tone on my guitar, putting it on the Blues Power channel that we designed that channel. So I could say, no matter what position I'm in, if I need to play more aggressive blues rock, or if I want to play country or traditional blues stuff, I can go into that channel and get the sound I need.
Which I would talking about channel, which I also think is very interesting. And with the Blackstar, you've got two different voicings for the clean channel. You can change between the American and the British clean, so it's like best of both worlds.
I like it because what really happens with this amp too, kind of like the guitar, is you're not stuck with one situation where it's like, here's my clean. You can really go in and dial it in between the two voicings and using the volume and tone control on the amp, you can really dial it in to get something that works for your playing. Yeah. So you're not just stuck saying, oh, this is the clean Jared likes. It's not like that. You can really take this amp and make it your own.
Yeah, and I think it's quite successful in Germany. It was sold out, the amp, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. So
awesome.
Because as you said, it's not you only have to play super blues stuff the whole time. You can also dive more into the music, and it fits the style you're playing it. It doesn't have to be all the time Jared James Nichols music.
Yeah. It's funny too because my friend has one. He goes, "Man, this is the best amp for pedals."
Oh yeah.
And
you're the anti-pedal guy.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's perfect because, like you said, you don't have to play aggressive blues or the way that I play. You can get this and sound the exact way you want to sound.
Maybe we are going to see soon a black metal band playing your amplifier or something like that.
I would love it. That would be amazing.
Would show what's possible. As you said, it's all in the fingers. But you don't play hardly any effects, do you?
I have a Klon Centaur.
Oh, okay.
Okay. That was a gift from my friend. One of my friends, his name's Big D. He works for Joe Bonamassa.
Oh, okay. Wow.
He gave that to me, and the reason that I love that pedal, and I've tried a ton of different pedals, but when he gave it to me, I knew something was special about it, and the way that it reacts to my fingerstyle is pretty awesome. Now I'm just plugging in through my JJN amp right now. I'm not using that. But really what I found with pedals in the studio, if we want a certain sound or a certain tone, of course I'll try it and I'll mess around with it. Yeah. But when I'm playing and when I'm really feeling like myself, I really just love a loud tube amp. And I like to make all the sounds with my hands. Yeah. Also, when I toured, I used to try and take a pedal board. Like I would come to Europe and I'd tour and I'd have a small pedal board. I'd have a tuner, a overdrive, a wah-wah, and maybe a fuzz. Yeah. And I would always break them.
Okay, they're not tough enough for road life.
So then all of a sudden I'd be on the road and it'd be going, and I'd say, I'll just plug straight into the amp. That'll work. And I mean, even in Germany, not last year, but the year before, we were in Germany quite a bit, and we played Wacken.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I just plugged straight into the JJN, straight in, and just let it rip.
That's the spirit of Wacken, straight rock and roll.
Yeah, and it's so much simpler, and it's a little more pure for me to do that.
Okay, nice. So now we talked so much about gear, equipment, Leslie West. When you also played examples for us, you recorded examples of mountain songs, and of course your favorite personal riffs, which you can also listen, guys, on the CD, and which we are going to upload. But let's talk a little bit about it. You recorded at first Mississippi Queen. And,
yep.
So tell me, let's talk a little bit about the songs, if you like, and what's your story behind it, and what's so interesting for you in this song.
The reason I picked Mississippi Queen to start off with was because it's undeniably the most recognizable Leslie riff. And if I could have, I would have played you the whole song. But I thought that the riff that I played really showcased his elegance between a rhythm and a very aggressive traditional blues lick that sounds hard rock. And also, it's a major lick, and then it's going into a minor lick, which is a really cool thing that I think a lot of players could dig in on, is being able to use major pentatonic, going back to minor pentatonic. It's super cool. And I love Mississippi Queen. Of course.
Brilliant, nice. It's such a headbanger.
Yeah, it's and the funny part is, when it was recorded, there wasn't a lot of aggressive guitar sounds like that. So I think it really jumped out, and it made a lot of people going, "What is this? Who is this?"
Yeah, it's also like Mississippi Queen. We can call it. It's a signature song of Leslie West. It's the most famous one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The second riff that I recorded for the mountain ones is one of the main riffs to Nantucket Sleigh Ride, which was showcasing what I'd talked about before with those stacked power chords, right? So that song is so beautiful, and I've learned it note for note because I love it so much. But what I think is really cool, and that some of the players watching this could get out of it, is stealing that idea of stacked power chords. So I'm starting with the stacked power chord on an E, which is barring my finger across the 7th fret, and then my ring finger across the 9th. And this is the riff. Super cool, very simple, but there's a lot happening there. When you hear that, if I didn't do it stacked, it'd sound like this. Which is cool.
Something is missing, isn't it?
Something is missing, and then you get the... And then Leslie would add one of these. That's another thing. When people are thinking about Leslie, think about his vibrato. He would do wide, slow ones, right? Or he'd do an aggressive, fast one, like a... Super cool.
That's also what you said. He doesn't play. He lets the notes ringing. He gives them space to develop themselves, and he doesn't play one note and in the next millisecond another one just to show how much a technical player he is. So the notes got their place to shine.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then the third riff that I did for Leslie and for Mountain was one of my favorite riffs of theirs. Let me remember which. Hold on, you're gonna have to cut that. I'm trying to remember what the third one was now.
Never My Life.
Oh yeah, of course. Okay, I'm gonna start that again. You're like, duh. Okay. So the third riff is one of my favorites that Leslie ever recorded or created. Was Never in My Life. It's one of the coolest pentatonic blues hard rock riffs ever, and it's so much fun to jam. So I'm gonna jam that for you right now.
You're welcome. Nice. Yeah, it's so groovy and yet also aggressive. What I think is so much interesting in comparison to Mississippi Queen. Mississippi Queen for me is it's a headbanger. People are really rocking out, and Never My Life is, you got, as I said, the stiff upper lip. It's so yeah, you know, when you really feel the coolness of it and the heaviness.
I heard a story that they were recording Climbing while Jimi Hendrix was recording, I believe it would have been Electric Ladyland.
Yeah.
And Jimmy came in the studio, and because Felix Pappalardi, the bass player and producer, said, I think, Leslie, you should meet Jimmy. And they played him the intro to Never in My Life.
Oh, cool.
And Leslie said that Jimmy sat there and grooved on it. And he said, that's a great riff, man. And Leslie said his life was made.
But that's what what I love so much about music. So one of your biggest influences is Leslie West, and his influence was Jimi Hendrix, and he was influence of Jimi Hendrix. So everybody is so open-minded saying about it. Yeah, it's a turnaround, and everybody influences each other and celebrates music.
So awesome.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing. And and you also recorded for us 3 songs that you wrote. So what's the story of them? Where's the connection to Leslie West in them?
The reason I recorded those riffs for a few of my songs was literally because they were direct inspiration of Leslie. Direct. When I was writing the riff in the song, I thought to myself, what would Leslie do?
Cool.
Like, listen to this riff. One of the riffs I wrote was, this is the outro to my song. It's called Take My Hand. And it's in the key of E. Listen to this riff. Very, very Mountain. I just love the feel of that.
I also like the intro of the song Take My Hand, because it's also so deeply rooted in the blues and is so atmospheric. So we can also already see the connections.
Absolutely. And the second riff that I recorded was Threw Me to the Wolves, my latest single. Yeah. And the reason I put this riff in there is because there's a part of me that feels like Leslie West had also a big connection to The Who. And he obviously recorded with The Who, and it never came out, but he had some really cool ways that he approached chords and that he would approach a riff. So here's a humble Leslie riff that I wrote. So it goes. Very cool. I had to add that because I thought to myself, man, that riff, I remember when I was writing that song, I had all this different finger picking stuff happening and going with the melody and the vocals.
Yeah.
And then when it came to that part, it was almost like taking the zipper of your jacket and zipping it up. And all of a sudden, here you go. Very, very Leslie inspired.
But what I also see the connection with Leslie is you're opening the song also where it comes the melody and the sound begins to sound so hopeful. There's so much hope in the song, which is like also compared to the mountain song like Boys in the Band or something like that when it's getting epical.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so important to remember that it's very, very. It's got to be about the music.
Yeah.
And the best part is when you can support the music with a great riff and a great tone. That's what Leslie could do so well.
Nice. And you played a third one. It was Keep Your Light On, Mama.
Yeah, so I'm going to tune to drop D for this.
Yeah. And when you're listening close to the song, people can hear your amp hissing, which we're talking about, which is so much fun because you already said it's important, the hissing of the P90, and then you listen to the song. Oh, I can hear a lot of hissing, but it doesn't annoy. It's part of the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I love that. There's even parts on, there's a song I have called Run. It's off of my second record, Black Magic. And I'm singing, and all of a sudden I go, like I'm coughing. We just left it in there.
Yeah, why
I think,
not?
too, with the guitars, when the amp hisses or when I get a crazy feedback or fuzz, it's part of the music breathing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people they say, man, you should clean that up. Or when I play, you should clean that up. But to me, I want to make the music me, and I want it to be interpretation of me. So if I'm playing one night and I'm playing something that's very, joyful and happy, you can know that chances are I must be in a pretty good mood.
Yeah.
Or, if I'm bashing on the guitar, I'm probably feeling,
the whole emotions.
Mm-hmm. It's all emotions.
Yeah.
So for Keep Your Light On, Mama, I wrote this riff totally with Leslie in mind. I said, I just want a straight ahead blues rock song. It's got a cool feel, a cool groove, and I just want a cool little riff that I can really build off of. Mm-hmm. So I came up with this one. And it was very easy, but when you play, and the thing I love too is when I'm riffing with the band, if it's groovy, if it's funky, and it feels right, it just makes everything better.
Yeah. And you're using the pauses, which I think it's really, and it's hard to put a pause in the right moment. And sometimes a pause can be more than a note, and I think you know the deal. And this is where we can hear it in the song. Yes,
and I think that's a great point. Is the silence is very important, and being able to bring it back. Yeah. It's very dramatic, and it's an awesome thing to do.
Yeah. So. Thanks again for playing out these lovely riffs and of yourself and of Leslie West. As I said, people can listen to it on our CD and of course in the YouTube channel. And let's still talk a little bit about your music, because you said you're going. You already have recorded. You're in the recording, or you are going to record.
Well,
album.
Let me tell you this.
Okay.
For any fans of Leslie West or Mountain or Hard Rock, I'm actually in the process of doing a tribute show.
Oh,
so that's going to happen, and it's going to be a live stream tribute where I'm going to jam with my band 8 to 10 Mountain classics. So that's coming soon. But in terms of recording, I've already recorded a ton of material that is ready to be released. And I've been songwriting so much. And the next step is we are back in the studio. My bandmates are flying in from Los Angeles next week. And we are back in the studio here in Nashville to finish up some real heavy blues rock stuff.
Oh, nice.
And this is the thing, it's been so hard to not be on the road that we want to release a record and then be able to tour. So we are going to release a single soon, but only a single off of an album, because I think it's so important to have a full album. And my hope is that we can get back and we can get back on tour sooner than later and start traveling. And I want to come to Germany and just have some fun, man.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And meeting you finally again in person and listening to your music and your band, and it's especially going on live concert again. But I think everybody is feeling like this, so we are all in the same boat.
100%. And I'm just very, very excited for people to hear the new music. If you love guitar and you love good tones and songs and blues rock, you're gonna love it.
I'm hyped, I can tell you. I'm pumped and thrilled. And yeah, Jared, thank you so much for taking your time for this workshop. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for showing us a little bit, talking about the man that influenced you so much, Leslie West. And yeah, I can't wait to see you sooner than later on the road again and listening to your new music. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the listeners and readers. And I will see you soon. Blues Power.
Blues Power. Bye.